Renee, I have one on TV. 5 seconds. You good?
Hey everybody, Renee Seiler here. Sorry we're running a couple of minutes late, and for those of you who stuck around, we appreciate it. Speaking of which, if you have stuck around for this post show with Amelia Thomas of Empire Capital Ventures and this great series we've been doing, Secrets of the 1%, please do log in and let us know where you are, where you're coming from. If you're watching us here on the Facebook fan page, please in and say hello and save your questions for Amelia, who will be joining me now. Hey, Amelia, you there?
I am, Renee. Are you? Can you hear me?
I can. Hey, Amelia, thank you so much for joining us again. I don't know what I'm going to do with my Monday nights when this series is over.
I know. I'm going to miss you, Renee.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's dive right in. And again, folks who are watching, please weigh in and save your questions. If you have questions for Amelia, please write them down. And because now is your chance to ask Amelia, and you're going to get the real skinny from her. That's the whole point of this series: is Secrets of the 1%. It's the things that the 1% don't really want us to know, how the rich keep getting rich. And that was why we decided to kind of pull back the curtain on this. Amelia, this was a show that you from the beginning said, this one is my favorite. How come?
Renee, this particular episode is my favorite because I think pretty much everyone knows that real estate is a staple in wealth building, particularly in America. But what people do not know is how much money really exchanges hands in a real estate transaction. And so when we think about communities that are being left behind and the wealth gap getting larger, really we need to analyze first how we're spending our money when we decide to buy a house, build a house, refinance a house, take out a HELOC. Um, and maybe it's not even regarding your primary residence. Maybe you want to become a real estate investor. And the same rules apply whether you buy a commercial building, a strip center, a mall, an apartment complex. All of these same individuals and parties are involved. And guess what? Lots of money is exchanging hands because it's not just the purchase price when you are purchasing or selling real estate. And so I think once we have a better understanding of how much money really exchanges hands, we can really start seeing like, wow, maybe I need to ask a few more questions about who my lender recommends for this, and can I make a recommendation, or can I search for some people to make sure that they're at the table too, so I can make sure that the dollars that I'm spending when I buy or sell a property, that those dollars I'm using them responsibly. And I'm making sure that individuals that look like me are able to have a seat at the table as well. Because in most cases, they are not. Maybe your agent, but that's maybe about it.
Yeah, when you start looking into wealth building and how many times that African Americans have been locked out of the process. I mean, when you go back and you look through history and you know, buying home ownership was the thing that so many of us were left out of due to redlining and discriminatory lending and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that, like, it's almost, are we able to catch up from that? And if not, can we get close? And like you said, it really is a great way to build wealth. Can we close the wealth gap through homeownership?
That's a great question, Renee. And unfortunately, I do not know the answer. However, what I will say is that home ownership alone will not be enough. We are going to have to be homeowners as well as investors. And in order for us to become serious investors, I think we're going to have to work on our emotional and psychological trauma that we have experienced as African Americans or Black people in this country. So I think there is some psychological bondage that we need to be released from before we really have the opportunity of being able to close the wealth gap as it relates to real estate investing.
Yeah. So the thing that you loved about this was that there's, you know, so much money that, and so many people have their hands out. And some of the stuff I knew from having bought a few homes over the course of my life, but some of the stuff was also kind of surprising as well. Um, but you go through builders and contractors, appraisers and architects, and we haven't even really even gotten to the loan process. Then the loan process, we've got a loan originator and an underwriter and all of those things. It's funny when you see it at a closing, it's like a line item on the
That's right.
close, but it
That's
really
right.
adds up. It really
It
adds
really
up.
adds up. When you see that HUD settlement statement and you see all of those charges and all of those expenses, 2,000 for this, 797 for this, $800 for this, $1,500 for this. Guess what? That is money leaving your pockets going
Mm.
into someone else's pockets. Now, you may not have brought that much money to the table, but you're paying for it over the next 30 years. And when you add interest on top of that, you pay for it 4 and 5 times over.
Mm.
So yes, that is a lot of money that is exchanging hands when we buy a property. And again, we are typically just like we've been left out of the process when it comes to buying homes. We've gotten, we have narrowed that gap a little bit more, but we are certainly still being left out of the process in terms of the types of hands that have their hands in the pot,
Mhm.
siphoning away money from our communities.
So, Amelia, if somebody is watching this who's never bought a home before, what
Mhm.
would be kind of the first or second or couple of steps that they should take right away?
Yeah, so for those who are watching this particular episode who have never purchased a home before, the first thing that you want to do is obviously work with a real estate agent or real estate broker. Find someone that you can really trust, that you like, that can help you navigate the process. Number two, if you are interested in trying to control as much as possible in terms of where these dollars go, I would also ask that broker to ask either the lender or you can ask your mortgage lender yourself, like, hey, out of all the people who are being paid on this settlement statement, how many of these people do I get to choose? Obviously, they're not going to allow you to choose the appraiser. That's a whole nother story, a whole different avenue of wealth being siphoned from us on a daily basis. But I digress. But ask the mortgage lender, who do I have control to bring to the table in these various positions that's being paid on this HUD settlement statement? And then for those positions, if you know a title attorney that you want to use, great. Bring them to the table. If you know a surveyor you want to use, great. Bring them to the table. But ask your lender, who of these professionals can I bring to the table? See if you can find qualified people. And if not, then go with the lender or the agent's recommendation. But
Mhm.
I want people to know that you do have a choice for majority of the people that are being paid on that settlement statement. We just don't know to ask.
Yeah, I never asked. I never thought I had a choice. So I love that you said that. I think also you have to have someone who matches your kind of temperament because I cannot say I found the process to be very, I mean, it was worth it in the end, but you need somebody who can talk you off a ledge as well. So, that kind of person. So I found it to be a little bit unnerving, which was why I love this episode because you really demystified something that I think is confounding to a lot of people.
Yes, yes. It does not have to be nerve wracking, and it does not have to be um, so emotionally draining, intense. I think we just have to do a little bit more research, get a little bit more comfortable, and be comfortable asking questions and
Mhm.
asking the hard questions. This day and age, we're purchasing homes $3, $5, $1 million. We're talking about a lot of money that's changing
Yeah.
hands when we doing these transactions. So, in general, we have to get more comfortable asking the hard questions and making sure that our rights are being protected. And one of your rights is to have the option to choose some of these particular vendors and contractors on that HUD settlement statement. But again, that's something that they don't talk about because they don't want you to know.
Right, right, right. You talked over a couple of real quick points I want to make about the things that drive home values, location, and what were some of the other ones?
Yeah, location, competition, modification,
Scarcity.
scarcities, exactly. Those are the four that drive prices. If you modify your home, maybe you take it from a single family to a duplex, and there really isn't many other duplexes in your zip code. You might increase the property value in your house. If your home is in a up and coming area, new schools, new malls, new grocery stores, that's going to impact location. Scarcity, is there a lot of property in your area? If not, scarcity will certainly drive up the value of your home. So yes, those are the four main items that will help change the value of your home, whether good or bad. So you do have to make sure that you watch those things. But yes, those are the four primary drivers of home values.
Right. And just lastly, I love that you really focus on asking questions and having a right to ask those questions and to demand answers, because this really is the largest investment many of us will make, is it not?
Absolutely. Purchasing a home is typically the largest investment most Americans make, and certainly African Americans.
Mm.
Um, most people are not going to spend this much money sending someone to college. They're not going to spend this much money on medical expenses, due to health insurance throughout their entire life. Um, you know, they might spend this much money on taxes throughout their life, but outside of that, this is going to be the largest expense. And so, because more and more of us are purchasing homes, it is, I feel like we're doing a disservice to ourselves and to our communities when we just do not realize how much
Mm.
money exchanges hands. When we're talking about, hey, the dollar doesn't even circulate in the African community 1 hour before it leaves again, this is what we're talking about. These are
Wow.
things that we have more control over, or we can very easily have more control over. But we don't know to ask. We don't know that
Mm.
this is a right of ours,
Mm.
to be able to have freedom of choice in some of these vendors. Now, again, some of the vendors you won't have the opportunity to choose from, like the appraiser. But many of the others, yes, you have the opportunity, and it is within your rights to choose those people. So when we want to talk about seriously narrowing the wealth gap, and we want to talk about helping the dollars circulate in our communities longer, this is a place everyone needs to scream from the top of the rooftops to make sure that we circulate the dollars starting here.
I know you probably don't want to answer this because you said this is a story for another time, but please, what is it about the appraisers that why can't we choose our appraisers? Or can you, sort of boil that down to a very simple, response? I don't know. What is
I'll
the
try,
deal?
Renee. I'll try, Renee. But long story short, when you are purchasing a property, the bank is not going to allow you to choose your own appraiser because, the appraiser will work for you at that point. Like, you would have hired that appraiser. That appraiser may or may not feel somewhat obligated to skew those numbers on your behalf. However, so the banks are like, hey, we're going to hire our own appraisers. We'll only take their appraisals for the valuation of those properties. The problem is, have you seen all of these news stories that have been coming out lately about people basically hiring white people to come in when they are getting an appraiser, they like remove all the photos from their home. They remove anything that may resemble a
Right.
black person lives there, or that home is owned by a black person. They hire white people to come in and pretend that that's their home, and their
Mhm.
appraisals have been coming back $100,000 to $300,000 more.
Yeah.
I too have been subjected to having a lower appraisal done on a house that I own. So this is something real. And guess what? 94% of the appraisers in the marketplace are not Black. They are not Black.
I
It is
remember,
very difficult.
I remember this story. I do
Yes.
remember something about, a
And
big,
it's
big,
happening all across the country, Renee, and it's
wow.
very difficult for Black people to break into the appraisal industry, and more so because you have to go through what's known as like an apprenticeship. That apprenticeship is several years, sometimes about 3 years, almost working full time. Many of us cannot take that amount of time off work to
Mm,
go through that type of training and that type of education. And then you have to find a company that's willing to bring you on to
mm,
be under their tutelage. And guess what? Those companies are not ran by people that look like us. So there
mm,
are many factors that keep us out of that keep African Americans from becoming appraisers, which of course continues to impact the valuations of our home, because we know definitively that our homes are valued less, can be
mm.
the same exact home, the same exact square footage, the same modifications, same color, same street next door to each other. If the house next door is owned by someone other than a Black person, and the one that we're discussing is owned by a Black person, and the appraiser knows it, that house is going to be valued for less. And that
Wow.
is a hard fact. And so until we can find ways to penetrate the appraiser industry more, and there are more safeguards put into place to protect African American buyers and sellers, we are going to continue to be at a disadvantage of closing the wealth gap as it relates to valuations of properties.
Well, as depressing as that is, I mean, and we do have a ways to go, but we start with collecting knowledge and gathering knowledge, and that's what we're doing here. And so, Amelia, again, I thank you so much for your time and your talent and all that you've done to educate us on this very crucial issue. I know this was an important one for you, but the entire series, for those of you who might be watching, please go back, go to the convo.tv and check out the entire Secrets of the 1% series. Amelia, thank you very much again on this Monday night. Have a good night. And thank you,
Thank you,
everybody who
Renee.
might be joining us. All right. Thank you and good night.
Good night.